yesterday we talked about Stevie Ray Vaughan and how the main lessons I took away from him was his rhythm skills and how he used that, and then his muting skills basically, because how do you strum single notes? You have to mute all the strings that you're not playing, right? And we also talked about my upcoming program, which is all about extracting the main lessons from these guys, these top blues rock players, instead of extracting their licks. And I actually got a message from a guy who said, well, if you want to learn to play like Stevie Ray, then you have to learn his licks, right? And of course you do, right? So if you want to play in a Stevie Ray cover band, or you just want to learn to play like him, sound like him, then of course you need to study his licks and learn those. But this is not what we do here. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's equally valuable as doing this. But what we're doing here is taking the principles behind these guys playing so we can learn to extract the magic from them and infuse it into our own playing without sounding like them. like sounding like us, right? But we're really going for the lessons instead of just the superficial, what they do, the bits and bytes of their licks and, So we want to learn, we're going to do another top artist here, but we're going to look into what are the exact elements they use so we can use the same elements instead of learning the licks and sounding like them. So that's the point of this, right? So let's go for the muting part. Now we have this down. So how do we put notes to that? How do we do that? Strum our solos. And it's a bunch of muting techniques, basically, because it's not one thing. Palm muting with your right hand down here, that's one thing. That's one muting technique. But when you want to mute single or multiple notes, it depends on whether you're using your first finger, right? That's another muting technique than if I'm using my third finger. Because the fingers that I'm not using to produce the note are the ones that does the work when it comes to muting. And we're also using our right hand to mute. Not palm muting, but we're basically strumming, but not all of the strings. So there's a lot of things that goes into this. And in the upcoming course, we're going to go deep when it comes to muting and really, clear away all confusion about how to strum any note without having all the other notes ring out. But the little licks or exercises I'm going to show you now is really, you might find them hard in the beginning. But that's like everything else, right? It's new. That's why it's not because it's harder than doing a normal chord. Because what it is really like doing a chord. So when you had to learn to play a C major down here, you have to learn to place your fingers in a very specific way, just behind the frets. And it's the same thing that goes on when you're muting. Exactly the same thing. No difference. So please, look at it that way and don't go, oh, this is too hard. Once you have got the first couple of licks down here, the rest of the muting techniques will be a walk in the park, I promise you. So let's learn to play a very relevant little thing here. We're in the key of B, so we're playing the B blues, and I have my first position blues scale shape in the 7th fret. Right here. And you might want to go to our website, download this video so you can watch it in high definition, resolution, so you can zoom in and see what I'm doing here. And see my pretty face as well. So I'm just gonna... So that's the kind of thing we want to learn in this session here. So we have a lot to do. So what I need you to do is just play this. Let's just look at that. Once you have that down to the level of mastery, you can do it much faster than you really need to. Then you can start messing with the rhythm of it and right? And really change it. But let's just learn the muting techniques. The first thing I'm doing is I'm just doing a muted stroke down. Right? Let me just get these off here. I'm just putting all my fingers across the strings without, pressing down too much and doing a downstroke. Then the next thing I want to do, I want to hit the two middle strings, the D and the G string, and I want to put my third finger across these two and create a little bar. in the 9th fret on the D and the G string. But so how do I mute all the other strings? Well, that's very simple. It's a little bit hard to do in the beginning, but what I do is do this first. Pick up your guitar and work with me here. I'm putting down my 3rd finger across the D, the G, the B, and the E string. Right? But I don't want to hear the B and the E string. So what I do is I lift my finger slightly out until I hear the E string and the B string being muted. And that's just, you just experiment with that. You want to have the tip of your finger here on the G string, then the next there, the soft part on the G string, and then you want to angle it like this. So if this is the fretboard, you put it on like that, and then you just twist it out like that, just a little bit, so the B and the E string. Now I have these two, right? But I don't have the B and the E string, because it's muted by the very same finger that's fingering the actual notes, right? So what do I do about the E and the A string? Right, we don't want those. And I'm simply taking my 2nd finger and then just placing it softly on top of or in between the E and the A string. So now I have the 2 middle strings ringing out in the 9th fret, the G and the G, but I've muted with my 2nd finger the E and the A and the B and the high E string, right? So if we put a little... Right? So that's it. That's like doing a chord, nothing different. But the problem is that when you do the next thing here, then that's cool. You can do that as well, right? But then you have to go back and forth between... Right? And that's the whole thing, because like you did chords in the beginning, right? You could do the C. Once you had the fingers on, you were good, right? Then you could play the song, right? And then you do the G, but it's the going back and forth that's hard, right? So please don't underestimate this challenge, but don't overestimate it as well. Learn to play it slowly, get it up to speed, once you're at this level, you can start repeating it over and over and over again, and that's why you get to mastery. So this is not that hard. So first downstroke, muted strings, then you do your chord structure here, right, that we just talked about, with an upstroke. That's the first thing. Mute, upstroke, right? And then the next thing you do, you can choose to go with a downstroke on the next, but I would suggest you do an upstroke to keep that hand going, right? And the way to do that is exactly the same way. Now, I just have the B and the G string. In the 7th fret, I do those two, and I mute the high E string by doing the exact same thing. This is the 1st finger, right? Pressing down in the 7th fret on the G and the B string, while muting at the same time the E string by doing that. First put it on like that and then angle it out like that. This way until you mute that note. But when I strum the strings here, I strum only the 3 top strings. And I do that by strumming upwards and out. So up and out. Like that, right? And you want to use that when you play the top 2 strings as well. Right? You want to be able to do that. So that's another way of muting, that you're not playing the strings, basically, right? But at the same time I'm doing this, I'm also putting down my 3rd finger on the notes on the D and the A string. So I have this and the strings here. That gives me a little bit more freedom when I strum upwards, right? Whoa, the tram just got. Right, gives me a little bit more freedom. So if I use multiple techniques to not have the strings ring out, I can really, use big arm movement. Now I can strum all the strings. Right? And you have to search and probe and sit just to get it right. And once you've got it right, you shift. You go for the other one again. Once you have that down, okay, now it's there. And That's too much, too little, too much. Press the finger there, right? Once you have it down, you move on right away. Okay. And you go back and forth like that, just like you would chords, right? So back and forth, and then you can do. So what I do rhythmically is I go. So you want to do a muted downstroke before you do the second. And then you want to go. So you go. So no downstroke there. That's. Right? You have this arm go. Muted. No stroke. And then twice, right? Hear that D string ring out. And then I mute again. So. Right? So, again fast, and then I'll do it ultra slow so you can really. Right? That's the first part. Down, up, down, up, down, but no stroke, no muted stroke. Up, down, up. Right? Right? And you're basically using the same muting technique here of, let me just put some music behind that so you can hear what we're doing here. Again, see if I can load the samples as well here, that would be nice. Right? So, works really well. And you can start messing with the rhythm once you have it down to the level where it's easy. So let's just do another thing, if we can, do it in this video. So what I was doing there was, this is a downstroke now. We're not muting with the upstroke. We're muting when we do a downstroke, right? And when we do that, I'm hitting the strings like I did with the upstroke. I'm hitting the strings, basically the same frets, right? We got the 7th fret, and we have the G and the B string, and I'm doing a downstroke, but instead of doing all the strings, I'm hitting from the outside in here. Instead of like doing this, I'm coming from outside, and then I'm hitting these 2 strings. And that means that I'm actually, it's like trying to hit a basketball hoop with a ball, right? You can't really, you have to try. And the same thing goes here. You have to practice like, too low, too low, too low, better, yeah. See if you can hit just the strings like that. And then you go over and over again until you can comfortably right? From outside here, it's like throwing a dart. You have to practice like that, right? And test it out. And what I was doing here was 1, 2, 3. Up, down, up, down, down. 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 And again, the muting, I'm still muting with my first finger, E string here, like I did before, right? 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 And the more when you're playing single notes like I did, the more you can focus on keeping the strumming motion going, the easier it is to get into the actual strumming action here. And so when you're playing single notes on just one string and you're not muting anything because you're just playing the string, you want to keep the strumming feeling. Right? So that's the key. And, if you want to do other things like stuff like that, you have to use other muting techniques. But get started on this and really do it every day and get it to a level where you can play it slowly but comfortably and accurately, go back and forth, break through the wall by having an intense focus and really looking at what you're doing, searching and probing to get it right. With just the two of these things, right? Back and forth, this is much harder than learning a lick. It takes much more focus and effort, but this is the work of the master, right? This is the work that's going to bring you to the place where you can really express yourself freely instead of firing off licks. So please focus. It takes an enormous amount of energy, so take little breaks, right? Go out, make a cup of coffee, come back, sit down, and then go, right? And really focus on it, going back and forth until you can do it accurately and slowly. And then start, taking it with the metronome, starting up the metronome, go back and forth. And then in front of the TV, once you have the timing right, and it's automatic on a low level of speed. And then you just start building thousands of repetitions while, watching stupid sitcoms or something educational on TV. Until it's just like second... Right? Until it's second nature. It isn't difficult anymore because it's in your nervous system. So, I'll see you in the next video where we're going to look at another top artist and just derive a couple of very important lessons from him. I won't tell you who it is just now. But come back tomorrow and we'll look at it. And please, if you're watching this on YouTube, go download the video, download the jam track and the tabs for this lesson here. So you have it with you so you can start practicing every single day. See you tomorrow.